So today we're going to talk about what it's like living with the Steam Deck as a console gamer for about the first month-ish. And it's been pretty interesting, and one of the first things I want to talk about is the size. So as you can see here, this is the Steam Deck, and this is it compared to a normal Nintendo Switch. This is just a first-gen Switch, and if you see, it's certainly a lot bigger and also thicker than the Nintendo Switch. Along with the size comparison to the newest Xbox controller, it's a lot bigger. And now while the Steam Deck does also cure one of my biggest gripes with the Nintendo Switch, that's because holding the Nintendo Switch for ages can really hurt your hands because of its flat back, whereas the Steam Deck has a more rigid controller-like grip, which I really like. It's also about the same width as a MacBook Pro 13. As you can see there's not much in it for comparison, so it's a big device. So one of the things I want to talk about is the UI of the Steam Deck. It's very nice, it's very easy to navigate around. As you can see there's all my recently played games. If we want to see what other games we have, we just go to our library, and in here we have a list of games. So Great on Deck, if you don't know, is games that are supposed to work the best with the Steam Deck, and you can see these are the games that I own that are supposed to be great on deck. There are several different things that you can do to show different games on deck. You can also filter them as well. So the different symbols you see, these green ones, all mean the games are verified. If we go over here, you can now see on Boy on Blob there is a yellow symbol, that means like playable. And if we go to like question mark, I think that means they're testing. And I don't have any of the, and that one there apparently means it doesn't work on Steam Deck. I think you can always click in and go across the game info and click details, and it'll tell you, and it says Valve is still working on adding support for this for the Steam Deck. But this is one of the little quirks of the Steam Deck. All these games here, most of them work, and I'll show you some that don't. Like for example, this Metal Slug 2, even though it says it doesn't work, and it says they're working on it, it does actually work. But not every game that says it's verified actually works on the Steam Deck. If we look at Limbo here, I thought I'd try this game out. You load it up, it comes up with that screen, and as you can see, we just have a white screen. Now this is one of the things that puzzled me, is like I didn't understand how this game's verified. Maybe I can reinstall and uninstall. I'm not really that bothered about this game, but it's just proof that not all of the green ones work. Luckily, Steam has a refund policy. If you buy something it doesn't work, you can always refund it. But one of the coolest things about the Steam Deck is it can play AAA games. So we see here we have Spider-Man. We can go in and launch this, and this works really well on the Steam Deck. So as you can see here, we actually have Spider-Man running. I've got the FPS counter at the top for anyone who's interested in that. If you're a PC gamer and you like your high frame rates, this may not be the console for you for playing these type of games. You can tweak the settings, of course. You're not restricted by any means, but you're getting a playable frame rate here for this game. And if I go to and turn on one of the other cool features of the Steam Deck, is you can see how much power you're using. We go down to battery and we turn on our performance overlay. You can turn on and see how much GPU you're using. You see there we're using about 93%, 57% of the CPU, or we can just have it at the top. And one of the biggest downsides to Steam Deck is when you're playing a game like this, you see up top here it says 24 point something watts. It'll differ around, but that affects the battery life on this side. You see we've only got about an hour and a quarter playing this, and we've got about 82% battery life left. So you're not going to get a lot of playtime out of a game like this on the Steam Deck, but you can still play it. And if you don't mind being on a cable, or if you're like me and you don't have a PS5, this is a great way to play some of these Sony games that have come onto PC, which I think is really cool. As you can see, it runs really well. We're not having any stuttering. It's just a lower FPS. But because the screen's lower, you don't have to run games at high resolutions. This natively runs at 1200 by 800, I think. That's the FPS we're getting, but it still looks cool. One other thing you might be able to hear, if I go quiet here for a second, is the fans. Now those fans come on obviously when you're playing a game that requires a lot of juice like this one. You don't always hear the fans if you're playing something lighter that doesn't require as much power, but you're definitely going to hear it on a game like this, and that may be annoying. And it also does crank out some heat. I don't really feel the heat when I'm playing, just if you stick your hand over the top or on the vent on the back, you can feel the heat. I don't really feel it when I'm gaming. As you see here, we're playing a game like Muse Dash, and the wattage used is 6.4. If we turn this menu, you see you probably get about 4 hours out of playing this game, which is a lot more than you would with other games. So it all depends on how much usage, how much like resources this game needs to run. Another thing I want to mention about the Steam Deck is Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1, even though it's classed as a like Steam Deck verified game, as you can see there, it says it's verified and it works. This game did not work straight off the bat. It worked as in you can install it and it starts, but I couldn't actually control it with the Steam Deck itself. I actually had to install an extra gamepad. As you can see here, I think it's... Oh no, it was this Steam Deck layout one here I actually had to install to get this to work on the Steam Deck, which I thought was really weird for a verified game. Steam Deck does also have a touchscreen, so some things in certain games will require you just to touch the screen for a second. So a lot of games do work straight out of the box. This game, for example, Duke Nukem, did not work well at all. As you can see here, this game just does not want to work. Granted, this wasn't classed as working on the Steam Deck, but you can try it and see what works for you. So these were the games that I've tested on the Steam Deck, and they do work. For example, this Honey Pop one, I think you have to use the touchpad, if I remember rightly, to move the stuff around. Limbo, as we clarified, does not work on this. And you can play things like visual novels on here, as well as like puzzle game. This Puyo Puyo plays really well, and these are some of the other games that I've been playing. This Unholy Nights, for example, does work. I believe it's another one where you have to use the touchpad as a mouse. And some games like this SpongeBob Rehydrated I've been playing a bit of recently. And if we go into the game info, it's classed as playable, but it says the game has minor audio errors for the Steam Deck. So it doesn't always mean the game won't work. It's just something you've got to try, and I feel like that's probably just a very PC thing. So one of the other cool things that you can do with the Steam Deck is you can use it like a computer. And if we show you now, I have 2 extra apps installed here. I have the Heroic Games Launcher, which is supposed to be for like Epic and GOG games, but I haven't actually managed to get that working yet. Like the launcher works itself, but I can't actually launch anything. I need to play around, download some versions of Wine and what have you. But you can just easily turn it into a desktop by clicking the Steam button, going to power, and switching to desktop. And as you can see there, it only really took a few seconds to do that. And now we have a full desktop computer. Oh, is it for us? I think it's for us. Maybe we've just glitched or something, I don't know. We can still use our mouse cursor though. I don't know what's happened there. Probably needs a reboot. That's one of the things I've noticed. This is... the software isn't as well finished as something like an Xbox or something per se. It's a little bit at it. Now it's working. It's a little bit more unfinished, and it has some technical errors, and sometimes you just have to restart the console and start again. But that could just be due to the games and like this layer that they've built to play all the different games and stuff. But it's not too bad. It's not hard to do at all. You can easily swap back to gaming mode just by clicking up here on this icon, and it'll just take a few seconds. It'll take you out of the desktop into game mode, which I think is really cool because you can use it to install different apps and do different things if you really want to get into the Linux side. If you really wanted to, you could actually get the dock, use the Type-C connector up top, and you could use this as a computer if you really wanted. Another cool thing about this is you don't have to buy the most expensive version because there is micro SD storage down here. As you can see, I have a little micro SD card in there for some extra storage. One thing I don't recommend on the Steam Deck is competitive games, because this just was not made for competitive gaming. I tried playing some CSGO on here and I suck at CSGO already, and all I had was people shouting at me and trying to kick me from the game because I was terrible. That may be just a skill issue, but I highly think it's just down to not having a keyboard and mouse. So my main use case for the Steam Deck is actually just using it in bed. It's like, it just seems to really work best that way. I haven't taken this anywhere. I'd probably take it on holiday if I went out for like quite a few days. I wouldn't bother taking this to like play on the train or anything, because I don't think you're gonna get enough battery life out of it unless you're gonna play something simple like Puyo Puyo, for example. As you can see, it's not using a lot of battery life. I wouldn't really take this outside of the house, but it's fun just to go and sit somewhere else and play your games. Or like take them with you, because you still have got that PC experience. But as you can see, one thing that I do have to mention on the Steam Deck is is its price. I think the base one's about, what is it, $350 or something. This one I have is the 256. I think it's £460, which is a bit expensive because you could probably buy an Xbox Series S and a Switch Lite for that price. But the cool thing is, if you already have PC games, I already had 130. How many is it? Alright, I already had 123 here, and quite a few were like verified or somewhat playable on the Steam Deck it's already. So if you already have Steam, you've already probably got some games that work well on the Steam Deck. You have something to play. Plus Steam sales, you can get some cheap games as well. But it is definitely a unique piece of hardware. I do like it a lot. I've been playing it quite a bit. Probably just because it's new, but I also do like the form factor. The only downside is sometimes if you're playing a game where I find when I'm playing a game, it uses these buttons over here a lot. Like instead of like not swapping really between the analog stick and the first buttons here, I get like cramp in my thumb, especially when I'm playing Puyo Puyo. I like pressing A a lot, hurts a bit. The cool thing about this is it's the Xbox layout, and a lot of games do support the Xbox layout, so you don't even have to really think about it. Some games do, like the Spider-Man game I was showing before, do support the Steam Deck buttons as well, so they'll show you like in the game, like press this button, press that button, you'll be able to work it out. Some games are not like that, but you can work it out with like PlayStation and stuff. So do I recommend the Steam Deck? I recommend it for people that want something a bit different and they already have some PC games, or maybe you just want to play take your PC games probably, or just play them in a different area, because not always do we want to be sat at a desk. Like I said, I like playing this thing in bed the most because it just really works well in that way. You're not going to get a lot of battery life out of this, but for me personally, I don't play games for like multiple hours at a time. Maybe 1 or 2 hours is my average gaming session, so the battery life isn't that big of an issue for me. It may be for you, but you can always plug a cable in the top and it's not going to get in the way the same as something like the Switch where the cable is always on the bottom. There is also a dock for the Steam Deck as well that Valve makes, but you have to buy that separately and it's kind of expensive, so it's even more cost on top if you want to use the dock. I personally don't think I'd ever really use the dock, but it's always an option for those people out there who want to. It feels really nice in the hands as well as the Steam Deck. And one thing I will say is I noticed from going from this to the Xbox controller, this is kind of heavy. This is really a heavy console. That's because it's got all the PC like stuff and it's got a fan. It's quite big and all that. But I didn't realise when I picked up my Xbox controller how light it felt, even with the batteries in it. And that was quite weird to me, that. But I really like the touchpads as well for getting around. Oh, the keyboard. I'll show you the keyboard, because the keyboard is really nice. As you can see here, you can use these 2 touchpads. And you can move you can move these 2 little cursors around on the keyboard. This is really great for typing, because if you've ever used anything like the Xbox where you have to type on an on-screen keyboard, that is the worst. And this is really decent at on-screen typing, especially when you want to search for a game or just type a simple message out on Steam. This works really well for that. So that's my thoughts on the Steam Deck as a console gamer. I really like it. I'm probably going to keep buying games for this. Maybe one day I'll upgrade to a proper PC for games, but for the time being, this is just perfect for me. What do you guys think of the Steam Deck? Have you tried it? Have you played it? Let me know.